Chase Amante here for Girls Chase. I'm here with Hector Castillo, a good friend and longtime Girls Chase contributor. Hector managed our YouTube channel for many years, but has at last left the nest to run his own consulting business and his own channel. Today, as a fond send-off to Hector's time with Girls Chase, I'll be interviewing him about women, dating, relationships, and life. And we'll also let you know where you can find him going forwards. Hector, it's great to be talking with you again, man.
Yeah, good to see you. It sounded a bit fucking depressing. It's like you're sending me out with like a Viking ship and you're gonna shoot it with a fucking flaming arrow. It's like farewell to Hector.
Should we do like a
No,
how should
it's
I do that?
no, that's great. I like it. We can keep it. We can riff with it. It just sounded so sad. No, it's great. Keep it in.
Should be like a celebration, maybe. It's a
Yeah,
celebration. He's
exactly.
graduated to.
There you go. It's like, oh man, fuck, man, it's a funeral. No, it's fine. It's fine. Keep it in. It's great. I like it. I like when the conversation's raw. That's how I do my videos. So, you just fucking go with it. Jesus. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. As far as funerals go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I know we said that the theme would be general woman stuff, kind of like woman philosophy. But for
Yeah.
anyone new that's finding the interview, because this is an interview, I don't know how many interviews we have where it's like a full Hector interview. So you want to just start from the top and give us a background about your journey through seduction and relationships and whatever you want to talk
Yeah.
about there.
Yeah, I guess maybe someone might watch this years down the line and you might have someone else doing videos or you might start doing videos on YouTube and so I might get in the backlog so they might not know who I am, right? So, someone stumbles across this years later and they're like, "Who's this Hector guy?" Um, God, how many intros have I done in my life? But every time I get on a phone with like a potential client, they're like, "Tell me a little about yourself." And I'm like, and over the years you start picking different pieces like what should I share, what should I not share? I guess the TLDR, because I yap too fucking much. I need to get more concise with what I say. Um, I guess the shortened version is I had your typical nerd in high school shy guy story that a lot of people watching this probably have. Um, I could tell girls liked me. I don't know if it was because of looks or because of energy or there was something, but I did have a few girls who liked me. So I wasn't completely, drowning. But I definitely had a lot of hang-ups. You could attribute it to a bunch of things psychologically, but at the end of the day, I was not succeeding. And then I just had a wake-up moment one day. Had a girl who I fell in love with, but she had a boyfriend. It was a typical, you know, poor Latino boy, rich blonde white girl. It was like some fucking fairy tale for me. But she had a boyfriend, and I had a lot of integrity back then. Unfortunately, I lost it for a bit, and I would sleep with girls who had boyfriends. And I think that experience motivated it because I got so upset because I had some chances, but I didn't take them because she had a boyfriend. And then I got my heart broken because I think she was looking for a little bit more of a ruthless guy. And in my depression of sitting in my room crying every day, I had this kind of snap moment where I was like, all right, I'm definitely being a victim. Like I didn't phrase it that way, but it was the realization that I was being a victim, and I was like, nothing is going to change unless I do something. Like it was this very clear. I was here one day and I was here another day. Like it was a night and day realization, and I just kind of woke up. I was still sad, but I really really drastically changed in just one moment. And so I just started going out and I went out to my first party and people were like, "What the heck? Why is Hector at a party?" Not like, "Oh, why is he here? He's a leper," but like I'd never think he'd be like this. And I just started socializing, socializing, socializing. Got my first blowjob pretty fast. I pulled her on the first date, and I was just like fucking YOLO, and I did it, and I'm just like busting a nut all over her face. And I was like, "This is just like in the porn videos that I watch." I was like, "This is great. It's amazing." Um, and then Things didn't work out with her. Like literally, we'd hang out. She'd suck my dick, and she'd like it was just the weirdest. It was a relationship too. It was awkward. Like we'd pass each other in the hallways of high school and wouldn't even say hi
Be
to
like,
each other. It was the
not even a
weirdest.
nod.
No, like we were Facebook official and everything, and we're like, we just hang out, make out, suck my dick, leave. And it's just like, what's going on here? She eventually left because I wasn't getting anything out of it. I didn't really care, but I got, I got what I wanted. So, and then I had my first girlfriend soon after that, and I went to college at the same time, and that's when I really took off. I I still had this mindset, like I have to learn this thing, like it was a game to me, right? You have to level up, you have to grind, you have to learn your rotation, you have to get better gear. I mean, it was really clear to me. So I just went to college and started like training and training and training and being awkward and making mistakes. And then I got single, and then I slept with like nine girls in my first year, where I was like truly single. And so college is where I cut my teeth. So social circle game was actually my first real introduction into game, which was really good, I think, because I think guys who start with cold approach or start with online dating, they tend to miss some of these basic social skills that you get when you just have friends and you're hanging out with people. These kind of social new. Usually, the guys with the best game are social circle game guys, but they unfortunately limit themselves because they don't do cold approach typically. But if you got them to do cold approach, they'd probably be better than most guys out there. Um, but and then I found Girls Chase. I found the pickup community in general, but specifically Girls Chase in the summer of 2013 when I was traveling around Europe. I started posting on the forums and my first lay reports, and then I saw the red circle with the metal bald man show up, and it was Chase, and he was responding to my forum posts, and he was like very interesting style, and we started talking, and then I started formally studying game, and then I think my knowledge just exponentially grew because now I didn't know I was doing it in my own Hector language, but now I had a formalized system that I was interpreting everything that I kind of knew into a different way, but then also learning new things. And then I had Chase like actually being there, you know, giving me advice as I was like having experiences, and so that was very very helpful. And and I'll always be grateful for that. So um, I improved very, very quickly. And then I graduated college. And then I moved out to California, started working at nightclubs. And I'd worked at a bar in college, but like I was in the city. So I was in real life. And then, so I had social circle game there. But then I really heavily started doing day game, which I'd started doing when I traveled in Europe when I found Girls Chase. But I really hit the pavement. And I knew because I wanted to do this. Because I was going to get into academia I wanted to be a philosophy professor because I have a degree in philosophy and literature, but academia is full of fucking idiots and losers, and so I was like, I don't want to go there, and so I was like, well, what the fuck am I going to do with my life? I'm like, well, I'm good at this, so I'll people make a living off of it. Chase has a business, I can make it work. So I was like, I'm going to do this professionally. So I have to learn how to do everything. I can't just be a social circle guy. I have to be a cold approach guy. I have to be an online dating started coming around the time that I was getting out of college. I remember when Tinder first came out, right? I was there in the Stone Ages. And I kind of was there for the beginning of a lot of things. Like when I was a teenager, texting first came out. Like, you know, so I was there for all of um, the pioneering of a lot of these new mediums of communication and ways of dating. And so, you know, I started doing Tinder. I did everything basically, right? And I was also in relationships too. I wasn't just a fuckboy. Then a year in, you invited me to do one date and do the interview part of it and film it with you. And so I sold everything, went to Europe. Um, that was my plan. Like I was going to use that as a offboarding to or an onboarding to like start my travels officially and just live the vagabond life. So I traveled around Europe after doing one date with you, and then settled in Romania, and then stayed there for uh, 4.5 years, 5 years, something like that. And then I met my now wife, and I went to after during COVID, ended up moving to Ukraine, and then we stayed there for about a year and some change, and then Russian artillery was literally raining down on my head. So we got out, and then Now I'm back in America. So I've kind of over that, 10-year plus period, um, I kind of did it all. Traveling, Playboy lifestyle, relationships, now married life and focusing on business and so I think it's been a pretty well-rounded journey. And there's a lot more in the future, but that's my that's the short version of my history.
Yeah, that's great, man. It's an adventure.
Yeah.
So, through all this change, would you say that your thoughts on women dating relationships have evolved over time?
Yeah. I think that when I first kind of started out, I did have some inklings of what we now call red pill. And I actually liked the red pill when it first came out. It was called the manosphere when it first. For those of you who don't know, you like all your Andrew Tates and your whatever's now, they came from a place called the manosphere, right? Like all these guys, I knew of them a long, long time ago before they got famous, and I saw the rise of it, and it was through this thing called the manosphere. And it was really, really popularized by Roosh V and the Return of Kings. You can still find the website on, Wayback Machines and stuff if you want to go read some of those wild ass articles. There's actually an article that says like society owes men sex. Like literally says that. And it was published. And it was like, all right, well, okay. So I saw the trajectory of where we were going culturally, but also I did find myself agreeing with some of the stuff. And so, because I kind of started out as your typical idealistic romantic guy in high school, like during that kind of lonely period, and then I became kind of a player, so I had a little bit more of some rougher ideas, right? Fuck these bitches, fuck these hoes, make money, like that kind of mentality. And so the red pill though was kind of counter to the PUA, where red pill was like more lifestyle and mentality, whereas PUA was just like pure pragmatic efficiency. It was like as mechanical as you could possibly get. So I actually liked that the manosphere started to integrate some more raw, rough things. But then obviously I saw the inklings of it being way too much, right? And I knew that it was just the opposition to feminism, and it was just going to be a victim mentality torpedo for guys who want to just like, you know, have traditional views. But I did realize that I had some of these beliefs, and some of them were actually true, but they needed nuance. But so you asked me if my views have changed. Um, what happened was I think I took this hyper pragmatic like scientific PUA perspective, and then there was this lifestyle traditionalist point of views that come from like manosphere or what we call red pill now. And then I kind of started to like take what was correct and maybe throw away what was wrong, and then slowly kind of build my own little edifice, over time. And so a lot of things I think have changed in terms of nuance. I mean, I can agree with a lot of things on the surface, but then when we start getting into the nitty gritty details, that's when things start to become very, very particular. Especially one of the biggest things was I remember when I would start giving advice on the internet, and a lot of things come with that, right? There's a comment section. And the one of the most common things that I would hear, and this is related to my viewpoints, was not all women are like that, or every woman is different. Like I remember hearing that a lot. I would especially hear it from women. And I would always just be like, all right, that's fucking dumb. Like, like clearly what I'm doing is working. So clearly there are general principles. Because if there were not general principles and every woman had a particular individual taste, then you would see that happen almost statistically. You would see that it would be impossible for one man to be individually an outlier in terms of success, because there would be no way that he just magically fits every woman's individual preferences. They would be like snowflakes. Every single one is non-identical, right? It would literally be there would be one guy for one girl, or like a very small cluster for a very small cluster. But then you have these guys, and I was one of them, who is an outlier who all the girls are liking. So that must mean, by conclusion, there is something this guy is doing on a universal principle level that is causing him to be more successful than everyone else, right? So he must be tapping into some general principles. Not all, like, not he can control every woman and Jedi mind trick her, but like there's something he's doing right. So there are some universal principles, but I think that I was too stubborn in that belief. And I think my mindset started to change when I actually started somewhat listening to the criticism of these people. Because there's something you realize in the world is that people who criticize you, they're usually right that something is wrong, right? There's something. It could just be your marketing. You could actually be 100% correct in your argument, but it's your marketing. And of course, you can't appeal to everyone, right? You're never going to make a perfect argument that everyone agrees with. But a lot of times your critics have points, but they're not aware of what that point actually is. They just know something's wrong because you're rubbing them the wrong way. But if you are truly a seducer, or if you're truly a marketer or a salesperson or whatever, or a business person, you have to listen to that to some extent because there might be some wisdom in there for you to learn from. So my views started to evolve and nuance because I started considering that. And I considered the feedback of women, right? Women would say things like, "Oh, you're an asshole," or this and this. And I'm like, yeah, but you're sucking my dick. So like there is, clearly I'm doing something right, but maybe I'm not doing everything right, right? Maybe there is some room for, and girls were straight up telling me a lot of the things that I ended up working on. And if I just listened to them like 10 years earlier, I would have been even more successful. But I'm stubborn, right? So, but I took accountability for that. And so I started asking myself questions like this one. This one really blows your mind once you realize it, is that every woman is different. But that isn't a complete refutation of the idea that there are general principles like women like assertive men, women like confident men, women like, masculine men. But that doesn't necessarily mean women don't like feminine men, right? Women can like feminine men who have enough masculine characteristics to still trigger her feminine lust, but then he appeals to her in X and Y way. And I learned that because I myself would be very unorthodox in the way that I seduce. I have a very interesting style, right? Like I'm very direct with women, right? And I remember even your first response to me was like, "This is a bit of a strange style, but hey, if you can make it work, like kudos to you." And then I remember your response to me years later, where you're like, "Hey, you figured it out." Um, but I
Yeah,
have a
you
very,
got it.
yeah,
I was
I have a,
excited to see. I was hoping to see it
yeah,
because
yeah.
that's the fun thing, seeing the new stuff that guys bring to the table and innovate.
Mhm. Yeah, no,
And you did
and
that.
I'm glad you encouraged me. So I was very grateful of that. Because when you tell most people how I seduce girls, they're like, "Really, that works?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, get on my level, right?" And so I had interesting styles, but then I also met guys who were successful. Like I can see them with the girls, and girls like them. But it was contrary to a lot of the advice I was hearing, even within my own field. So it's like, okay, wait a second. I'm doing things that are really out of the ordinary, and they're succeeding. And here's this guy who's definitely not a manly man at all. Like I would have my other friend who is like your fucking archetype of Giga Chad manly man. And he's like dominating this like more feminine guy. But like he's like being a rough housing guy. He's like, "Hey, what's up, bro?" And I could see the other guy getting intimidated. But I know for a fact this feminine guy gets 5 times more pussy than this super alpha male. Like it fucks hotter girls, fucks more girls, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Right? This is your typical like, here's the alpha male, here's the beta male. But it's like that's not how it works because I know details about this guy that don't tell the whole story. And so I started considering all of these things, right? All of these little nuances. Like maybe every woman is individual in her preferences, but that doesn't mean that these universal attractors don't have weight either. And so I started learning like this girl's different in this situation because you acted like this and you said this and she had this relationship to you. And then when you said this, even though technically it's the right thing to do in terms of game principles, it's actually the wrong thing to do in this instance because you have this relationship built with her. So it countered that and actually killed the seduction. It was this very, very specific, hyper detailed, tailored approach to every single girl, which is an incredible mental load. And so I totally understand why most guys are not interested on understanding this on that level. But that's why I'm the professional. So I'm here to learn all of those things on a crazy nuanced level. And then when someone comes to me for help or watches a video, they might go, "Oh my God, that's my exact problem. I read on articles or seen in a video. Maybe even Hector said this or Chase said this, but in this one instance, it didn't work. And like, here was a reason why And then and they're like, but you said this. And I'm like, yeah, but I said this in this context, not in this context, because in this context it changes. Because the real floor principles of what's going on are just attraction principles. And you always need to come back to the attraction principles. Everything else that we're teaching in videos and articles are just um, permutations or combinations of those in sets of circumstances, right? So you have your similarity, arousal, compliance, and you describe any scenario. You can, it's plus 7s plus this, you can kind of come up with a general vague description of like, it's generally this. She's a similarity girl. She's a compliance girl. She's a arousal girl, right? Or with me, it's love, lust, and trust. So, I'll be like, okay, well, this girl's more of a lovey-dovey type. Oh, this is more of a, she's just looking for fun and suck dick, right? Or, you are really good at creating trust with women, but then you totally suck at creating lust, or vice versa. And so you can nail down anyone's specific problem with a specific girl by just understanding the basic foundation of is she attracted to you, how much, and in what way. And once you understand that, and the only way you understand that is you have to open your mind to the possibility that every single interaction is different. And when you do that, that sort of is like a real red pill where it wakes you up and you start seeing seductions from a very, very different point of view. So my views, I mean, have drastically changed. In some ways, they've gone away from maybe some PUA principles and or red pill principles, and some of them have gone totally inside of them, like and even more in those direction. And some of them are just completely different. Whatsoever. Like I used to think, oh, a man should be a king and have 10 wives and have four different houses for all the different baby mamas and this and that. And then eventually I'm a strict monogamist now, right? Like I'm like, if you're gonna be with a woman and you are gonna pledge loyalty to her, anything aside from that, no matter how clever you think it is being immoral. Right. So I've included morality into my system as well. Like because I'm a Buddhist and also I don't want to hurt anyone. So I've made a lot of nuances to my views. Like, do I think that being a player is a completely horrible thing? No. But you have to make sure you do it in the right way. All right. A lot of guys I've learned are out there just straight up lying to women. Like, how many girls, like, I used to think that this was a fiction that women are putting out to, like, bitch about men. All these guys are shit. Right. But, like, there are a lot of guys out there being assholes, just like there's a lot of girls out there being cunts. Right. Does that mean a guy who posts on Twitter, sorry, X, sorry, Elon, post on, you paid a lot of money to earn that name. I'll give you that respect, brother. But like, you you have some guy bitching. Does that mean every girl out there is a cunt? No, but maybe that girl in that one situation was, right. And so I started listening to that pain, I guess, and started being empathetic. And like, there are a lot of guys out there who are lying to women or heavily implying lies, right? Like they'll talk to her for months to build that trust and make her think they want to relate. Like I've started to understand these things. So I've included a lot of like, if you're going to be a player, don't take it too far. I think reckless hedonism, and people in your life who have maybe taken hedonism too far, or maybe yourself, or I've taken hedonism too far, right? And you know that there are unintended, unforeseen consequences to it. And, and it can lead to pain for yourself. I mean, I know when I got too lost in hedonism. I mean, personally, I was drinking and doing drugs and this, and you condition that by being way too much of a player, maybe. So, but does that mean you should be this like, which is usually what a lot of PUA guys do? They hyper turn into super religious people, and they become like no sex before marriage. They overcompensate, right? From their hedonistic lifestyle. I don't think that's necessarily the right way to go unless you have some very serious spiritual goal, right? And in that case, okay, it's understandable. Um, like if you're going to be a monk, yeah, of course, right? You got to give up lust, right? Um, but you know, I keep finding all of these nuanced situations where it's like if you're just this guy who takes it super slow with every single girl, are you really probably going to find the best girl for you? Probably not. There's a lot of skills you're not going to learn if you're just like taking it way too slow. Um, but then if you're this reckless hedonist, are you damaging your ability to like pair bond and you're just starting to see women as objects? Yeah, you definitely That is gonna happen because I've fallen for it, and I see guys falling for it, and they get led into really extremist views where they're like, marriage is putting a dog collar on yourself, and it's like, whoa, bro, like that's just not like I know guys who would wipe the floor with you and they're happily married or like in relationships, right? And they're not even that good, and they'd still smack you around in a seduction one-on-one, you know. So, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's just so many individual views that it would be impossible to go over. Um, but I think that slowly I'm getting more nuance, and that nuance is being informed by philosophical rigor and also experience.
So let's say, given your current views and morality and philosophy, let's
Hmm.
say you got a guy coming to you right now and he says, Hector, I want to know the best path I can take to learn to get good with girls, but I don't want to get on the wrong track. I don't want to
Hmm.
become, I don't want to get lost in hedonism, but I want to have the most effective path to getting what I want. What would
Yeah.
you recommend to that guy?
Well, first I would say how much experience he has already. Is this guy totally starting from scratch?
Let's say it's a young guy. He's only got a little bit of experience. Maybe he had a girlfriend before, and he's like, I want to get more experience with girls. I want to have some fun eventually. Just the normal trajectory. I want to have some fun for a while, and then eventually maybe get into a relationship. I don't know. I'm young. I still don't know what I want yet.
Yeah, yeah. Most guys are in that camp. You're like you said, yeah, that's the typical story. Now we tend to get more guys who are in those player categories because where there's blood, there's sharks, right? So if you're talking about fucking a bunch of girls, you're gonna find guys who want to do that. So there's a higher percentage of those guys in our community. But if you just take 100 random guys, 90 of them, 95 of them maybe want to have a couple hookups with a cute girl, and then they want to find a girlfriend or a wife. That usually defines most guys. Even guys who come to me and say, I want to have fun and da da da, they end up just like finding a girl and getting into a relationship. I'm sure you've had clients who like are all excited and then they find some girl and then they just disappear into, you know,
Oh, sure. Every guy wants to be a player until he meets that girl, and then he's like, happy now.
yeah, yeah. So the thing that I would your North Star, aside from, being moral, right? That's super, super important because I think it's actually gonna make you more successful. Most of the guys who I know who are immoral, right? They lie, they cheat, this and that. There's a lot of consequences. Even if you're like a fucking psychopath and like morality has no bearing on you, like in terms of like you don't care. I think it actually is the more efficient, successful path to be moral, especially when you start dealing with social circles, which you're inevitably going to have, unless you're a complete loner. But I think you're actually going to draw better people towards you when you're being moral. So that's like the first thing, right? So no lying, no heavily implying wrong expectations. Doesn't mean you have to come to girls with fucking documents and like, hey, this is my expectations and da da da, right? Human communication and intentions and what you want changes. But I think you should come as clearly and openly as possible without being like fucking autistic. And then you should, not lie and not cheat, and don't hurt anyone. But aside from that, your North Star is going to be I want to make a choice of who I get with, and especially the girl that you will settle down with. Your goal should be this is going to be a choice. This is not going to be a stumbling into it, falling into it, right? This is a very, very dangerous thing, right? I've met girls who I was, oh my God, I can't describe how attracted to them I was. But I knew they were not right for me. I knew it. They had flags out the wazoo. There was just an incompatibility issue, and their pussy was drugs, and being around them was drugs. But I resisted getting with them, and I know it was the best choice because I knew they weren't right for me, right? But if I had not had the training that I have now, I don't know if I would have been, because discipline is usually not enough. You need to have wisdom. You have to have an understanding that something isn't right. Because if I sit there and I'm like, listen, Tyler, let's say the guy's named Tyler. Listen, Tyler, I know that girl's really hot. I know she sucks your dick like a Hoover vacuum and you just fucking love her, but like she's not right for you. And I'll tell you right now, I am zero for X for telling guys not to date certain girls. I've never succeeded. Not once, okay? So I need to tell you now before you get sucked in,
Yeah.
right?
I've got
Never
two successes.
really?
I'm very proud of those because otherwise, same as you, guys never listen.
No, no. And the one time I did succeed, he got mad at me. It was a friend of mine. So it wasn't even a client. He got mad at me for convincing him to break up with her. And then he got back with her. And I was like, all right, so I don't really count it as a success. So I uh I would say, okay, listen, Tyler. Um I know she's great, but X and Y and Z, this is why you shouldn't date her. Um my goal is for you to be educated enough to not have to purely fight me on it. Because if you're fighting between Hector's advice and the pool of pussy, pussy will win 99 out of 100 times, right? But if you have the wisdom where it's not just I'm trusting Hector and like maybe he has some good advice, you actually understand that she's going to be horrible for you. You need to think 5 years down the line. You need to think 10 years down the line. You need to be thinking, you know, seeing her on the weekend when you pick up your kid and she's with her hot new boyfriend, right? You need to be thinking like that, right? Is she going to be the kind of cunt who's going to like rub it in your face, right? Or is she going to be the kind of woman who, tries to take your kid away? Or is she going to be the kind of girl who like amicably breaks up with you and she's polite and sweet with you and kind with like, who is she going to be in 5, 10, 15 years in the worst case scenario? You should be considering these things, right? But a lot of guys get lost in the dream and they're only looking at the right now and what's going on. And you have to look at that too. Like, okay, basically, there's three things that make your decisions. I'm talking mostly about like who you settle down with. I know there's another part of this question, but this is like the long term, like North Star. Her looks are your choice. Right, you know that guys have wildly different tastes, right? I show you a girl that I really like, you'll be like, yeah, she's all right, I can see why you like her, but she's not for me. And you'll show me the same, I'm like, yeah, she's cute, but not for me, right? Guys have wildly different tastes. Uh, Personality, I think, is the same thing as looks, just on a mental level. You like girls who are fiery. I like girls who are more relaxed. Did this and then this, but it's not that simple, obviously, right? Just like looks, right? Two girls can look similar, but totally different. But those are up to you. These are your personal tastes. You like this type of personality and you like this type of looks. But this third thing, those are what I would call like objective girlfriend quality characteristics. Like you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. Maybe 1 out of 100. Maybe. Am I willing to bet the house on that? Fuck to the hell no. I am not taking that bet. If you want to play slots, you go ahead, good sir. I'm not in that business, right? So there are these objective, relatively. Now, can some girl change her life around? Hell yeah. Who am I to tell some person that they can't, change as a person, you know? But again, I'm not betting on it. I'm just taking my best guesses. So there are these objective, what we call red flags, yellow flags, orange flags, right? Those are what you need to look at when you're making this long-term decision. But the problem is, if these things are really great, you're gonna have a hard time making a decision based off of this, right? So you need to start right now thinking my North Star when I'm marrying this girl, I need to always have Hector in the back of my head saying, listen, motherfucker, you better fucking make a good goddamn decision on who you fucking end up with. Like, I know that pussy's hot, that ass is fat, but it's eventually going to fade. And you guys are going to be 70 years old, and either you're going to have a happy family or you're going to have a bad situation, right? So make sure you make that decision from a choice, not you stumbled into it because you couldn't control your dick, couldn't control your feelings. And most of that is going to come from scarcity or abundance, right? So if you're starting out right now, this North Star of like who you end up with and also who you have fun with in between, because you're probably not going to hit the jackpot on your first go at it. Some people out there, I'm sure you've heard that story. Oh, we met in high school and we stayed together and we're super happy. Now, are they as super happy as they say they are? That's another question altogether, right? Just because they're together doesn't mean they're happy, right? But let's assume they are. Well, that's a one in fucking how many chance, right? If that was destiny for everyone, we would be out of jobs. Happily out of jobs, but out of jobs. right? It's just not the case. So if you're rolling the dice on that, good luck to you. But you need to develop a skill set, right? So that you can make a choice from abundance. Because like I said, when I was yapping the fuck out about that thing earlier of like there's universal principles and individual preferences. Look, you got to learn game. There's no girl out there who's going to be like, I don't want a funny guy. There's no girl out there who's going to be like, no, I don't want a guy who's going to fuck my pussy into oblivion. No, no, I don't want that. Right. Oh, I don't want a guy who's nice and caring or charming or sexy. Right. There are these things. Are there different ways of doing them? Just like there's different genres of music. Yeah. I fucking hate the Beatles. I think they're shit. But they play music well. They know how to play the instruments. I can recognize that. I don't like their music, but I know they're good at it, right? So you got to find your own genre and make your own songs, et cetera, right? But there's still a skill involved. So you have to learn your instruments, right? You have to learn how to play your voice, your body language, your eye contact, your the way you express yourself, the way you move, the way you talk, your words, your mentalities. You have to learn how women think. You got to learn the game. Now, different guys are going to learn it at different levels. Some guys are super ambitious and they want the best of the best, and they're the maximizers. I know you like to talk about maximizers versus satisficers, right? Satisficers, so they just want good enough, right? And then you have maximizers, right? And I want to be the best of the best. I want the hottest girls in the world, but usually the hottest girls in the world are walking on some random corner and they're not dressed super nice, right? The most beautiful women in the world are probably not the ones on TV, right? And these are things that you can't learn unless you have some experience. So you're gonna have to go out and have some trial periods, right? And you're not gonna hit a jackpot on the first try. Um, you have us here to tell you things, but you're not gonna fully believe them until you experience them yourselves. Like I can tell you, see that girl who's dressed really frumpy and she doesn't look that hot? Take her clothes off and just look at her as like straight up as you can, and then put her against your favorite girl from social media. Take all their makeup off. This girl is twice as hot as this girl. But you won't know that until you actually put in the work. Because right now, because you lack this knowledge, you're falling for the glamorous girl, right? So these are small little lessons that you're not going to learn unless you get experience. But the only way you're going to get experience is you train those instruments, like I just said, the vocal tonality, the facial expressions, but also the mentalities. Like that's a mentality that I'm explaining, right? Like go with the more objectively beautiful girl, like for you. All right, don't go for the glammed up girl. But also the glammed up girl comes with all sorts of like the fact that she's glammed up says and signals a lot of things about her, right? So I know I'm kind of like branching off in 10 different directions here, but really the lesson at the end of the day is you need to do all of this by choice. You don't want to get lucky. You want to get laid. Where you didn't engineer it completely, right? We're not Jedis. She is definitely playing her part in the dance, but there is a skill set. And if you're not succeeding, it's a skill issue. Is being good looking, tall, having a 10-inch dick, all these things going to help you get laid? Of course they are. Of course they are. But if you don't have them, you don't have them. So whether you have them or you don't have them, you need to develop the skill. You need to become charming. You need to be funny. You need to learn how to have a conversation. You need to learn how to express yourself. You need to learn how to shave away those weird fucking things that you have, right? Where you nervous laugh every time, or you fucking twitch. I don't know what the fuck. You might have some fucking weird thing about you. You need to start understanding the way that you express yourself and perfecting it as much as possible to the level that you are ambitious enough to achieve. And the higher you climb, the more choice you'll have. Just like everything in the world, there's a 1% of income and there's a 1% of getting pussy, right? And so if you want to be in the 1%, put in the work. If you don't want to, fine, but don't bitch about it. So start putting in the work, start training your fundamentals. That's what facial expressions, body language, da da da. Training your expressions, training your mentalities, and training your game, like what you actually say and do in response to her doing X and Y. And then make a decision from choice. So the way you do this, I highly suggest you train social circle. A lot of guys I've met who are cold approach or online dating guys only tend to be a bit weird. They tend to lack some social nuances. So train social circle, get some friends, hang out with buddies, and there's so many things I can't even explain that you're going to learn just passively. And you're also going to meet the best seducers in the world who are just in some random corner of the world. They're not on TV and they're just fucking killing it. And you'll never hear about them unless you meet them. Um, you can do online dating. I would highly advise you stray from it, but you're not going to listen to me. So I'm wasting my breath, right? It's fucking DoorDash on your phone for pussy. Like, who's going to say no to that, right? Fuck Hector. Um, you do not be closed off to relationships unless you are a straight hedonistic psychopath, which you're not going to listen to me anyway, so I'm not even really addressing you. You probably want a relationship. So don't get too lost in this. I'm gonna be Mr. Pip Daddy, sex god. Like that's not gonna happen. Like chances are, first of all, it's just not gonna happen, right? Like I said, there's a 1% for a reason. Um, be open to a relationship if you find a great girl. Don't reject her just because you think there might be something better. But that doesn't also mean you should settle for the first great girl you meet. But if you meet a girl, she fits everything you want. There's no don't don't throw away a diamond just so you can keep partying. I would highly advise against that. Even if you don't think you're mature enough for her, get into a relationship. Most of the time, you'll end up being happier. But that should be a choice. Every time everything can be clarified by is this a choice or are you being led here only by your dick and your heart and by her toxic behavior, right? Um, so social circle, try to avoid online dating, but you're not going to listen to me. uh, don't be afraid of relationships. They're fine. Commitment can still work. Chase can tell you that he's the statistics guy. He'll tell you the world is not on fire like you think it is, right? Stay away from the red pill. For the love of fucking God, stay away from red pill and manosphere. Stay away from the black pill. Holy goddamn shit. Let me swim in the sewer. That is my job. I have to deal with it. You stay away from it. Please, for the love of God. Um, and do day game. Fuck me in the ass, do day game. Oh my God, it's the best way to meet girls. No one's doing it. It's like a gold mine. It'll always be a gold mine. No one will do it forever. Like, no, there will be no time in history where everyone's out doing day game, right? I promise you will never have competition, right? There's a few. I just had a friend, a client text me. It's like, I'm back in Bucharest, and there's like 3 different groups of guys doing day game. But that's because people found out that Bucharest is a gold mine for women. Same with Kyiv, but right now it's, war zone. But when that ends, I'm sure Kyiv is gonna fucking blow up with, a lot of expats. Um, but day game, day game, day game, day game, day game. I that's how I met my beautiful wife. It's yeah, it's amazing. Um, and then yeah, yeah, I think that's a pretty good North Star.
I agree, yeah. And I'll throw in one thing for why it's important for guys to get experience. Like you were talking about, if you got guys will get the girl, she's got the looks, she's got the personality, but she's got all those red flags. And like you were saying, maybe there's a 1 out of 100 chance that she's going to reform. Well, when you don't have the experience, your mind will convince you she is that. I know she's that 1 out of 100. She's going to reform for me. Definitely 100%. Because you're going to do whatever you need to do to keep yourself in there. You'll come up with all the
Yeah,
all the reasons and all the logic, and that's what experience does for you. Is it disabuses you of all these excuses that the mind comes up with, and lets you see
yeah,
the cold, hard logic, so you can make an actual intelligent choice, and you don't end up in this terrible position where you're like, oh, how did I end up in this position? Jeez, what did I do to myself?
yeah, yeah, yeah. The mind finds a lot of ways to cope. I mean, not every girl's gonna be perfect. Right. And in your relationships in your life, I'm sure as amazing as the girl is, there's issues, right? I've had tons of issues with really amazing girls, right? There's gonna be fights. There's gonna be drama. She's gonna put on weight. She's gonna do this. There's gonna be issues, right? So and I'm a guy who's a perfectionist. And so I'm very intolerant of imperfection. But even then, I have had to learn. I was like, all right, look, just like I have a lot of shit wrong with me, these girls are not perfect. And I think that'll take I think a lot of bitterness is created by too much expectations. I think if we give girls a break, if you feel like the world is too tough and too hard on you, you're probably too hard on everyone else. These are just people. They make mistakes, right? So if she has flags out the wazoo, I don't want you to, oh, this stupid bitch, da 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 da, da, and no, just, hey, she's not the right girl for me, right? She might make some other guy happy. Maybe he likes the drama. Who knows, right? But not for me, right? Or hey, this girl's great, but she's boring as hell, right? And she's just not my cup of tea, right? She has nothing wrong with her, but she's just boring. Okay, cool. Then she just wasn't right for you. But definitely take it easy on women, right? And you should have high standards, but don't hurt people for it. And what I mean by hurt people isn't literally hurt people, but like don't make it that you lash out at people. Definitely go into this dating thing with a sense of ease. I mean, there's some serious stuff going on. I'm not gonna, I've been through a lot of shit, right? The worst experience you've had with women, I probably can top it, right? Not you specifically, Chase, but people in general. I know you've went through shit just like me, right? We've we've seen the worst, right? But try not to be bitter, right? And that was one of your most popular articles, and one of the first articles I read from you is don't be bitter, right? And it's just gonna hold you back. Women are silly and cute is one of the best perspectives you can have, right? And that's one of the best lessons you've ever given me is women are silly and cute. And when I have gone off the range and, I'm, twisting into circles in my mind, it helps me ground myself is to remember that girls are silly and cute, girls are silly and cute, and girls are silly and cute. Are they capable of terrible things? Sure. But actually, in my experience, I've been more hurt by men than women. And I've had some women do some shitty stuff for me. I think if there's anyone to be suspicious of, it's probably actually your fellow man, not women. I think women have far less motivations to hurt you than other men, which is counter to a lot of the zeitgeist out there. That's a big red pill that most men are not your friends. Despite this idea that it's a brotherhood, that's not true, guys. I would not trust like most dudes you run into. But you'll learn that lesson. Women have far less motivations to hurt you. Yeah. So, and yeah, loving women. That I mean, like not just not being bitter, but if you can actually develop a love and appreciation for women, I mean, a lot of it is just actually lust pretending to be this like romance. Like I realize that I'm not blind to the fact that it's mostly just lust, but um, it would help you a lot because most women out there, like, there's this idea of secret society of like men who understand women are sexual beings, right? There's like this narrative, and then when they know that you're in the know that women like sucking dick and getting fucked in the ass, and they're not this innocent angels, that they like bring you into the club and they'll give you things that they don't give other men. It's like you have some special guest pass, VIP pass. Yeah, that's true. Like when you become a sexual guy who understands that women are sexual beings and you don't judge them for it, do they look at you different and treat you differently? Yeah. But I think there's another one that's for loving women and seeing them as people. Like for me, I always used to vomit when they're like, "Oh, you're objectifying women," and I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm just better. Quit being jealous." But like the more I've seen people, especially in our industry, that's one of the biggest things too. Is a lot of people in our industry are just awful. I'm just like these are bad people. Like I don't want to associate with like any of them. Um, that's a story for another time. But you start to realize, you know what? I think a lot of us are just like not, seeing women holistically. But then as soon as I say that, I want to throw up because I sound like some fucking blue pill fucking, soy boy. But there is something to it. There is something to loving women and appreciating them as people, right? Do they have holes we want to fuck? Yes, right? And we should never be in denial of that. And that's always going to color and influence our interactions with them. It's kind of like why men and women can't really be just friends. They can be friends, but they can't be just friends because there's always that underlying current of like, I might want to stick my dick in you. Um, and I might want you to stick my dick in me. Like we're both just like so attracted to each other, but we should love women too. And if you have that love, you'll have there's the two, fast rail passes of being sexually understanding but also loving women, and women will really really I mean the treatment that women give me, I can see it literally in real time is totally different from how they treat other men. They're willing to be sexual and open with me on a level they're not, with other men. And it's not just about sex. Like they'll tell me things about themselves that like they never tell other people. Um, and that's because they can trust me. That trust is a huge issue, and they can trust me because they know I want to help. I only not only don't want to hurt them, like they have the trust that like I'm not out to like get them, either physically or emotionally. But they also, on top of that, can feel that I care about them and want the best for them. And if they can feel that, and they can feel it, they can 100% feel it. And it's very hard to teach this, but it comes from the mentality. But it's very hard to teach. If they can feel it, they will treat you completely differently, and you will have experiences with women that most other men will dream of. Doesn't mean like every girl's gonna follow your feet. I'm not creating this fucking fairy tale where it's like, oh, he has the fast pass. Let's suck his dick and worship him. It's like no, it's not like that, but it's closer to that than whatever you have right now. Yeah.
Beautiful perspective.
Yeah.
So we're about to run out of time. So let's
Yep.
make sure that all the viewers on Girls Chase YouTube and the rest of the audience can find you. We're going to send out the Viking ship
Yeah. I was about
to
to say, here's the funeral procession.
the archipelago. Where can they find you now?
Okay. So, I mean, you still have tons of videos and articles on Girls Chase, right? Oh, they're rushing you to go. Okay, I gotta get my fucking marketing out there. HectorCastilloDating.com. I have a Hector Castillo YouTube channel. Just look up Hector Castillo, right? And then you'll see Hector Castillo. There's a little red and black logo. And so I'll be uploading videos on there. Who knows? Maybe I'll upload videos in the future on Girls Chase. Maybe we'll have a reuniting. I might do some guest videos every once in a while. Who knows, right? Don't count me out yet. But I'm mostly focusing on my Hector Castillo channel. And so I have my website, hectorcastillodating.com. You can sign up for a coaching consultation if you want to work with me one on one. I'm selling my Meet Girls Everywhere course on my hectorcastillodating.com on the website. I'm selling my What She Really Means texting book on Amazon. I'll be coming out with a lot more stuff in the coming future. And I'm kind of, you know, yeah, I'm being sent off to my death and then I'm being reborn somewhere else. So there's a lot of cool stuff on the horizon. My rebirth into a beautiful phoenix is well underway. But yeah, just the best way to find me. Oh, and on Instagram. Yeah, duh. Instagram. Oh, and on Twitter. That's right. You got me into Twitter or X. Sorry, Ela. Yeah. So look up Hekky Castillo or just Hector Castillo or find Chase, and we're often reposting each other, so you'll find me. Uh, we'll be talking to each other on X, Instagram at Real Hector Castillo. Guess who I got that name from? uh, so yeah, Instagram, X, YouTube, my website, you'll find me. And if you want to do coaching, just message me and keep watching my stuff. Keep watching Girls Chase. Although this was somewhat of a funeral, I still have a very good relationship with Girls Chase, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. Um, it's not so much a farewell as Hector grew up. Right? Hector's a big boy now. I'm no longer wearing diapers. I can feed myself finally. So yeah.
Yeah, great. Hector, it's been a pleasure talking with you as always. I'm sure we'll have many more conversations. Not actually a funeral.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not dead yet.
Gave, made it too much of a dirge at the beginning there.
And I liked it. I like it. Let's keep it in. It's funny.
All right, we're gonna wrap things up here, but we'll talk again soon.
Adios, everybody.